Welcome to page 2. This is just to get our brain warmed up for this next idea. If we have something plus something in parentheses squared or something minus something in parentheses squared, there's sort of a pattern that emerges when we remove the parentheses. If I multiply this out, if I do the FOIL thing, I get x squared plus 18x plus 81. And, x squared, I get x squared, 9 squared, I get 81. How did I get the middle? Well, the way I got the middle is this. I got x plus 9 times x plus 9, right? I get the 9 times x and I get the 9 times x a second time. Because of this perfect symmetry here, I get the exact same thing twice. So, I'm not a genius. I just thought 9 times x, double it, that gives me the middle. So if I go over here, I'm going to say this comes out x squared, and minus 5 times minus 5 is plus 25. And if I multiply those together, I get negative 5x. Negative 5x, double it, and that makes the middle, negative 10x. Okay, so the idea here is if I square these two terms, that gives me the outside terms, or the first and the last, however you want to say it. And if I multiply them by each other and then double, I get the middle term. Now, the way we're going to use this here is in the reverse direction. And on your paper, the date should be corrected. That's September 6th, but it was actually January 24th. We learned the perfect square trinomial pattern, which says the same thing. If you have, if you have something plus something squared, you get the squares of the outside things, and in the middle you get 2 times the product of those two things. I'm just noticing now that this is written here twice. I'm going to fix that. That's not a problem, but it looks silly. Sorry about that. So, here's some examples to think about. Again, this is x plus 6 squared. Notice the multiplied out version. You get the square of the x, you get the square of the 6. Doing 6 times x and doubling it does give you the middle term. And what we want to start to notice is when I cover this up, we want to look at this and say, does it fit this pattern? So this is the square of x. This is the square of 10. And 10 times x doubled would be 20x. So it does fit the pattern. Okay? So if I have something like this and it fits that pattern and I want to rewrite it like that, I just think, well, what's being squared here? We square the x and we get x squared. We square a 2 and we get a 4. And 2 times x doubled or negative doubled would give us a negative 4x in the middle, so that's how that winds up like this. So what we want to practice doing now is taking, and there's one more example that we need to talk through that. If we want to rewrite this as something squared, we think, what's half of that? Because it's always the double thing in the middle. Half of that would be 5x. And then there's the x and there's the square of 5. There's the square of x and the square of 5. So that gets rewritten like so. Okay. Now how are we going to use that? Well, remember what we were doing on page 1. We had something squared equals a number. That's where we're headed in just a minute. So maybe I should say something here. If you take half of negative 2/5, you get negative 1/5, right? And if you square that, you get positive 1/25. So it fits the pattern like that. It might sound very complicated from all the words, but as we do it, you'll see it's not as bad as it looks. So what goes in here? What's half of this? Half of this would be minus 11. Is this the square of minus 11? Yes. And of course that's the square of x. So in here, it's x minus 11 squared. X minus 11 times x minus 11 produces that exactly. And here's the real crux of the matter. There is no number there. We're allowed to put whatever number we want, and we want to put a number there so that this will be what's called a perfect square trinomial. So this will be rewritable as x plus or x minus something squared. So again, this is supposed to be double something. What is this the double of? That's the double of 4x. There's the x. The 4 gets squared, and that's what goes here, the 16. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this as same variable, same sign, plus or minus, and it's always going to be half of that. So x plus 4 times x plus 4 would produce that. That's the end of page 2. Be right back with page 3.